The Commentary Booth is a show for media lovers by media lovers just like you. If you want to support the show, go to jamiapsmedia.com. Welcome to the Commentary Booth, the ultimate weekly entertainment recap and review show. My name is Jamie Apps, and each week I'll be joined by a rotating cast of co-hosts to run you through the entertainment media we've consumed during the week. Along the way, we'll provide you with insightful commentary and reviews. This week, I'm joined by a teacher and travel blogger who lists their favourite movie as Fight Club and favourite TV show as Survivor. Welcome back to the show, Buddy McClelland.
Thanks for having me back.
How's everything over your way?
Pretty good. I've been thinking recently it would have been really nice to be able to finally do a show together rather than just like socially distance. But at the moment, I don't know how good a microphone would sound through a surgical mask.
Yeah, we were getting close and then all of a sudden it's kicked right back up again, which we all kind of half expected.
Yeah, I feel like everyone expected it, but no one wanted it. It's all those damn dirty Victorians.
Yep, jumping the border when they shouldn't be. Did you see the people jumping the border wall at Queensland?
Yeah, was that the guys in like the van full of them?
Yeah, and then they set up, you know, those like big orange and white like traffic barrier wall things?
Yeah.
They set those up as the border wall so people couldn't just walk across the border. It's like they're 4 foot tall. Like people were just climbing, stepping over them.
Quick little jump. You never thought you would have lived in a time where people had to do that to go from here to go to Movie World.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect people to have to sneakily jump across borders just to go to the theme park.
No, this is the world we live in. Welcome to 2020.
It is interesting that the theme parks are open, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird, some of the stuff that you kind of lose in all the COVID pandemic and some of the stuff that you keep, like those sorts of things are still open. But, I mean, have you had to try and use, like, cash anywhere recently?
I used... at darts, we pay in cash, but that's fine. That's just like a sports club. But, yeah, like shops and stuff, people look at you weird.
Yeah, like every time I've tried to use cash, I actually had a day the other day, I was out playing golf and I had to get a refund for something, and the cashier, rather than refunding my FPOS card, gave me $20 out of their till. And then I went back around the store and thought, I might as well use the $20 just to get a drink, something to eat, whatever. And went back up to the till. It was a new cashier, but I used the $20 that they gave me back to them. And they looked at me like I was this dirty, dirty person. I was like, it's your money that you gave me. Like, just take it back. I don't want it.
Yeah, I don't want it. It's gross. Like, you keep it. But they look at you like you were handing over the plague.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Even like the soccer and stuff, when I went to watch Sean yesterday, like, that's cash, but then everyone's like spread out on the hill, which is not what you usually see there.
Yeah, it's really weird, and you kind of get tangled up in people when you're playing anyway, and some people shake hands at the end, and some people are avoiding it, and some people are elbow bumping, and some people fist bump, and I don't know, it's just a weird situation at the moment.
Yeah, even darts is like super weird. Like you finish a game, and you usually turn around to shake the other person's hand, and now you kind of just turn around and like, thanks, I'm not sure what to do here.
I mean, as a guy, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm not too sad to get rid of the handshakes where you have to meet every single random stranger that you don't know if they've washed their hands from the bathroom, and then they shake your hand like they're trying to break all your knuckles anyway. Like, it's probably not that big of a loss. Yeah,
no, I'm definitely happy to get rid of that.
Yeah. Hey, and then your birthday this weekend, so you won't be able to blow the candles out in the cake. You have to do that weird COVID hand blow thing people do.
Wave it with my hand.
Just wave real quick and hope they go out.
Wow, yeah, I never thought of that. That's a big change to birthday parties, isn't it?
You don't realise it was kind of gross, really. Like, just because it's your birthday, everyone had to eat cake with little bits of your spit on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And you guys like totally changed your wedding date too because of all this, didn't you?
Yeah, so we were originally booked for October 10th, 2020, which would have been really, really handy for me because it would have been an anniversary date of 10/10/2020, which I really shouldn't forget. So I was super excited about that, but then we have some of our mutual friends that are bridal party, so they're travelling from two from London and one from Guatemala, who are still overseas, and they wouldn't have definitely been able to get back. And even now, so we've rebooked to May of next year. And even now, it's kind of like I'm wondering if that was far enough away because the rules at the moment are there are 150 people at weddings, but no one can get up and mingle. So everyone's just got to sit still like a school assembly, I guess.
Yeah, it's just like I think I saw someone on the news describe it as like a high tea now. Everyone just sits down, has their meals, has their drinks, and then leaves.
And that is an expensive high tea. We are not having that for our wedding. I'll move it again if we have to, but I would really prefer not to.
Yeah, I can't see Anne having a wedding where she doesn't get to at least dance and show off a little bit.
Hey, that's the idea, isn't it? As the bride and groom, you finally get to be in the spotlight. But yeah, I heard someone else was telling me it was only the bridal party got to dance, so that would just be weird. Everyone sitting there staring at you. I'm not about that, so
yeah, that'd be just as awkward, if not more awkward.
Yeah, it's hard because it made a competitive market more competitive. Like we already booked that first date 18 months in advance, and then now we've had to move it, and that was the closest date where we could get our venue, our photographer, our celebrant, and everything we'd already booked all lined up again. So I really don't want to have to go through that again.
Yeah, it kind of had people that were all spread out, now all condensed into one smaller period.
Yeah, yeah.
So what have you been up to this week outside of stressing about everything?
I've just been hitting golf balls. We actually went down and stayed at a glamping sort of place in Borley Point called Bangalay Retreat. So they have African safari tents that they've kind of bolted down into these decks that they've built that have full kitchens and hot shower bathrooms, really nice. It's queen bed in the middle of a tent and yeah, super nice lighting and stuff in there. So we've kind of been trying to do with the travel thing going into, I guess, more isolated sort of little breakaways. So we also recently did a tiny house that we really loved from a company called Into the Wild. And that was out in the Canberra wine region. So I went and visited a couple of wineries, got some bottles of wine, and then hung around just the two of us on somebody's farm property out in a place called Bungendore out in the middle of nowhere. And kind of the perfect holiday at the moment to be able to get away in these tiny little, almost little luxury, off the grid sort of situations and be just a couple of people away from everybody else that's breathing on you.
Yeah, like travelling to places that you probably wouldn't have ever considered beforehand.
Yeah, well, I mean, I never even heard of Bungendore until we decided to do this one. And yeah, I mean, we obviously had a pretty solid honeymoon book to sort of go over to do Finland we were hitting up and Amsterdam, and then kind of hoping to go back down through Austria and different parts of Europe. So that had to get pushed even further away. So that was originally going to be over Christmas this year, so that will be pushed to the earliest June next year. So I mean, we've got to fill in the gap somewhere. You get a bit bored staying at home and being in the same little house, or even just in the same suburb now, because you feel kind of bad going too far out. But it was nice to go down to Borley Point and be able to sort of spend some money. I mean, all the bush and stuff around there is still really, really heavily fire affected and still just starting to grow back, all the little green sprouts coming out. So you almost forget that before COVID that half of Australia was almost on fire, that all that was happening right beforehand.
Yeah, and the scary part is we're probably only 3 or 4 months away from bushfire season kicking up again.
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily, I guess the turn down there is that it would be extremely hard for it to go like that again with the amount of damage it already did. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting to see. It was nice to be able to go down there and see things regrowing and, yeah, like I said, give a little bit of the money back into the places that really need it.
But yeah, Bungendore, I actually know that quite well. My nan and pop used to live in Braidwood.
There you go. You're a Queanbeyan boy, so I mean, you should probably know that pretty well.
Yeah, we used to drive through there all the time. My pop bought me my first pocket knife at the Bungendore leather shop there when I was about 8.
Yeah, it's a cute little small town. It's a really cool idea that company have. So they're basically the same tiny house that has this really great sort of luxurious loft situation for the bedding, and then a really nice little kitchen, and these really big windows at the front of it. And so it'd only be enough for, so they say you can fit 4 people in there. I would probably say maximum 1 couple and 1 other person, maybe, if you want to be the third wheel. But it's completely off the grid. So they do a composting toilet, which didn't smell whatsoever. They did solar panelled roofs that they can charge things, and I was flying my drone around out there, and that was all fine to charge on it. And then the shower and cooking scenarios all off LPG gas. So they basically partner up with different farm people and different in different areas and vineyards and things like that, and I guess they must split the profit somewhere, but they just kind of sit those tiny houses that they build out in these really cool places that you might never have heard of, and yeah, everyone kind of gets a win out of it. We got a win out of going out and staying there. The people that build them get a win of putting on the property, and the people on the property get a little bit of money extra as well.
Yeah, it's a really good idea to use farmland when it's not at peak farming period, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I just got a drone recently as well, so it's nice to be able to learn to fly it out in sort of a sheep station where it doesn't matter if I kind of crash it, because I can just go and pick it up. So it was a really good learning experience for me.
Yeah, if it stacks, it's just landing on grass in the middle of nowhere. It's not getting run over by someone.
Nah.
Did you get to watch anything on your breaks?
Yeah, I have watched a few things. Last night, actually, we watched a pretty cool sort of a family movie, Call of the Wild. So I don't know, you'd probably be able to tell me, are they sort of holding off movies now because of COVID? Are they not releasing things and releasing things randomly to streaming, or what's the go with that?
It's been a massive hodgepodge of strategies. Some places have held off their movies and pushed them back to next year, or even some are going to the year after, which has made it pretty hectic next year. There's going to be a new big action blockbuster every couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay, so you kind of save them up.
Yeah, next year's just going to be full on with movies. Or then there's others that are they've gone to video on demand services like Apple TV or some of the others like Foxtel Play. They've gone onto there where you can just purchase them on demand as rentals or to own. And then a few have gone to streaming. Last week I watched Greyhound, and that went straight to Apple TV Plus as an exclusive there. Okay.
Well, I think this one I saw when I was looking at it. So I watched Call of the Wild, and I think that's one of the ones where it's at some cinemas that must be doing some kind of screening now. But we rented it off of the Google Play movie store.
Yep.
And so it's a kind of I'd say a family adventure story. So I think it was based off of a book of the same name that was kind of the early 1900s, that's set in the Alaskan Yukon Gold Rush era, and it's based around this just gigantic dog named Buck. So it kind of follows him as he has this really hard time of being stolen from his owners and then taken out to pull sleds and things out in the Alaskan wilderness, and eventually he comes across a character played by Harrison Ford, and they're kind of out in the wilderness together, and they both kind of do that thing where they heal and they grow and kind of go on this giant adventure in the Alaskan wilderness. It was really good. The dog that they used, it's one of those situations now where we're stuck between using real animals in things or CGI.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, this dog that's the main character, so I mean it's a lot of screen time, is CGI'd, and it's CGI'd pretty badly. But the funny thing that I found with it was, with Anne and I sitting there watching it, even when the dog was CGI'd badly, we get so sucked into it with animals particularly that I still found myself getting more emotional about seeing this poorly CGI'd dog have a hard time or be mistreated by people that after the movie I kind of sat back and I thought, man, like, I'll watch a person in a movie like Saw or something, like a real-life human actor, fall into a pit of syringes, and I'm like, whoa, like, I don't even really care. But then this poorly CGI'd dog has a little bit of a rough time, and I'm, like, trying to hold the tears back.
Yeah, it's hard with animals. They always pull on the heartstrings pretty strongly.
100%. Don't worry about the people in our house. If an animal's in trouble, though, we'll be really deeply offended. So, I mean, I found it was a really good movie. Like, you get past the CGI pretty quick. Harrison Ford, I found, is, like, he's always good in those sorts of roles and kind of being the rough, almost a semi-alcoholic sort of gold rush character out there. I found he did that really well. It went for probably a little bit longer than usual. I think it went for about an hour and 40 minutes. But in the end, I was happy with the purchase. It was a really good sort of a family movie night sort of a movie. So, yeah, I'd recommend it. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the DVD now. I got sent the DVD thanks to the Popcorn podcast.
Ah, nice.
It's 95 minutes approximately, it says.
Yeah, so it took a while.
And is, like, the CGI bad in that, like, it's blatantly obvious that it's CGI'd, or is it, like, bad in the case of, like, it's that close but just off?
Blatantly obvious that it's CGI'd. Like, I found myself in moments, in those movies, I guess like The Lion King or whatever, where they kind of suck you in and you almost forget that the CGI is there. It definitely wasn't that. I found myself thinking about how hard it must have been for Harrison Ford to try and pull those emotional faces towards what was probably like a styrofoam ball on a stick for him to look at. So, the story dragged me in enough that I got past that. But if you're someone that's not going to have an easy time with CGI, then it will probably be a difficult one. But like I said, it got us sucked in there.
I'll have to check that one out this week, since I've got it sitting here and still in the wrap that I haven't opened yet.
Do you still have a DVD player?
Yeah, old PS4 plays DVDs, mate.
There you go. Well, not for long. The new ones are coming out without disc drives, aren't they?
There's the option of the discless.
Okay.
But I'm tempted to go that way because I like the way the box looks heaps like cleaner. But then the price of digital games really worries me. They hit you up so hard on the digital front compared to good old JB Hi-Fi $69 launch prices.
Well, that's it. They've kind of got you locked in once you're buying Microsoft, because I'm Xbox. Microsoft are very, very similar. When you buy things off their store, that they know that where else are you going to download it from? Like, we've got you.
Yeah, I think
there's no competition.
Yeah, like even like PlayStation Store, I could have bought the new game Ghost of Tsushima on Friday when it came out at JB Hi-Fi for $69, or digital download for $99.95.
I mean, you don't even get the box. You're getting less.
And yeah, like, you technically don't own it either. They could pull it from the store at any point and then you just lose your game.
I didn't know that. So they can just take it off of you.
Yeah, like, when the PlayStation 4 first came out, they had a game, like a demo called PT. And now if you have a PlayStation with that game installed on it, because if it's installed on your system, they can't take it off you.
Okay.
But if you delete it and then try to re-download it, it's not on the store anymore. So if you have a system with it installed, that system is now worth more than it would have been regularly.
Right, so they can get you to buy something and then remove it, and then you've bought something that you can't get back.
Yeah, unless you keep it just constantly on your hard drive. You could lose it forever, which is a bit crappy. That happened to me when my PS4 died. I had it installed and I knew that it had been pulled off the store, so I was like, nah, never deleting it, and then the PlayStation died.
Hey, I don't know what you do with consoles, but you have a way of killing them.
Yeah, that's because I always buy the very first batch, which is a bit silly, but...
Yeah, I'm the same with the Xbox. I got the very first batch, Xbox One, and yeah, it feels like it's been on its last legs a few little times where I've had to do the hard reset, but we're surviving so far, touch wood.
Does it sound like a jet's about to take off when it like plays one of the newer games?
Yeah, it heats up like, but I think some of the times it's just so old and it's been sitting there for a while. You forget to clean out the sort of the little cooling intake. So I think that's probably a little bit of my fault, just as much as Microsoft's.
Yeah. When I moved the PlayStation into the office, I was like, I better clean these vents out, and they were just caked in dust. I was like, ugh, that's gross. So yeah, for me this week, I've been watching a lot of movies. Yeah, literally 3 movies this week. I sat down and watched Danger Close during the week. Have you seen that one?
I think I did watch it. Is the Battle of Long Tan, the Vietnam movie?
Yeah. So the 2019 movie that focuses on the Battle of Long Tan during the Vietnam War.
Yeah. I think I might have watched it a little while back. I really liked it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, awesome. Like, to see obviously it's dramatized a little bit, but what they went through is just insane. They should not have came out of that alive.
Yeah, super brave.
And only losing the 18 people that they lost.
Yeah, I really appreciate those war films that don't necessarily glorify it. Like, they don't make you want to go to war. And a lot of those guys obviously didn't want to go. Like, they got conscripted and dragged there. So, I mean, yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, I think at the end they showed the list of names of the soldiers, and I think the oldest one was 22.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, as a kid, you grow up and you think, 18, 19, like they're adults. And then you kind of roll around to like 30, 31, 32, and you go, man, 18, you are still such a child. Like,
yeah, you have no idea what's going on.
None, but it's crazy that you think like adults and people in power that are conscripting these kids can say, I think they're old enough to go and die for their country. I mean, you're only just old enough to go to the pub, let alone go over and try and fight people that you don't know and end up in situations like they did in Long Tan.
Yeah, like that was 100% a situation that they should not have survived.
No.
Even like the decisions of the commanding officers at some points just made the whole situation even worse.
Yeah, it's super brave of them to be able to face that.
Yeah, like they didn't want to send the armoured personnel carriers and extra ammo. They were just like, they're gone. Like, at least fight for them, at least try.
Yeah. I guess that's a lot of the time where it becomes about in those situations that people aren't fighting necessarily to follow orders of people above them, even if they agree or they disagree with them. They're fighting to just do what's right for the person next to them, which I think is really that sort of sense of mateship. And while it doesn't glorify it, I think that's something that I took probably out of that movie. I watched it a little while ago, but I took out of it that sense of mateship and them doing the right thing, not so much for the commanding officer, but for the person next to them, was just incredible.
Yeah, I think they make that like a pretty big point, like even at the start when that soldier accidentally shoots off his gun and he gets sort of taken over the coals for it, about how can your mate next to you trust you if you can't even control your own gun. And then that's kind of the whole theme of the movie. Like, the guy next to you has to have 100% trust in you and know that you're going to be there to help him out no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we had our little stint, us, a couple of our mates, and did the reserves for a little while, which is, I'm not trying to say is anything near this, but I mean, when we were doing basic training out at Kapuka, and they get that into you from a very early time, where they get you to sort of carry weapons around that don't have any magazines or ammunition in them. But I do remember seeing a guy that forgot to take his assault rifle basically with him after he started walking off. And one of the corporals at the time realised, and he would have been a good 250, 300 metres away from where he had left his weapon, and they made him get on all fours on gravel and crawl the whole way over to it, and then crawl the whole way back. So, I mean, they're pretty onto it when it's about protecting your mates.
In my preparation for this episode, I read some of the criticisms of the movie, which they kind of said it was overly patriotic and sort of propaganda-like, but I didn't get that sense at all. It felt like it was just focusing on a particular moment in Australian history rather than trying to give you an overarching story of what was happening in the Vietnam War.
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally fine with the patriotism of it as well. Like, these people went over there, particularly Vietnam, went over and got pulled into a war that we shouldn't have necessarily even been involved in, and fought, died, had the post-traumatic stress and everything, and came home in a lot of situations where people didn't even thank them. I mean, if they're getting some recognition of that now, at least, then I think that's a real positive.
Yeah, it's no wonder these guys had PTSD. Like, the conditions, like, just so muddy and just disgusting, really.
Yeah, and booby traps and all sorts of stuff. Like, it was pretty rough kind of a war.
But yeah, visually, I felt like it got that message across, and then the use of the smoke flares at like pretty pivotal moments, like injected a bit of colour to lighten it a little bit. Like, otherwise it could have been a very dark, somber movie right throughout.
Yeah.
What else did you check out this week?
On a very, very different sort of a side of things, I watched Rebel Wilson just created a show. It's on a comedy front on Amazon Prime, and it's called Laugh Out Loud Australia, and it's basically the idea of putting 10 comedians locked down into a house in a game show scenario where they're all in there all at once. It's almost like crazy Big Brother. They put them all in there, locked them up, no one's allowed in and out, and the last person to be able to stay in there without laughing wins $100,000 cash.
It sounds like, I can't remember what the show was, but I think it was like MTV in the early 2000s, where it was like they'd go into a library and they'd just do crazy stuff and you weren't allowed to laugh or react.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's kind of along those lines, but with actual celebrity comedians, which would make it really hard.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was really like it was almost like Big Brother if it was only filled with crazy people that had no shame. Like, and they went in there with the intent of just, I mean, comedians always have kind of strange ways of seeing things, I guess, and they just went in there with the idea of trying to make each other laugh. I mean, they had two chances. They almost ran it like a soccer game. So if you laughed, you got a yellow card, and then if you laughed again, Rebel came back in, gave you your second yellow and red card, and you were kicked out.
Yep.
And I mean, just watching, I think half the time it was almost funnier watching the people try not to laugh at the other comedians, and they let them take sort of prop bags in there and all sorts of stuff. People had costume changes, and they had joker cards that they could play that meant that everybody had to give them their undivided attention for the next 3 minutes.
Oh, God.
I mean, it got real weird real fast, but I just couldn't look away. It came out every Friday for, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks. I think there's about 3 or 4 episodes. And, like, we were really looking forward to watching it every Friday because we just wanted to see how weird it got. And, I mean, some of the comedians, they're all Australian comedians. And there's some people that some comedians, that people would already really know. Like Frank Woodley, who I love out of Lane on Woodley, was in there. And he was just insanely funny the whole time. Joel Creasy was another one that I really liked in there.
He's a bit of a nut.
Yeah, just got involved in everything. But then I think the other really good part for me, that other than the humour that was in there, that it introduced me to some Australian comedians that I hadn't necessarily already seen. And it gave me a chance to kind of watch them and decide if I thought they were funny or not in a situation where I didn't have to try and lock in to watch their whole comedy special.
Yep.
So, I mean, I really found Ann Edmonds and Sam Simmons really funny. So we ended up watching Ann Edmonds' comedy special afterwards, and, like, I'll definitely keep watching her stuff beyond that. Sam Simmons is one of those sort of shock value comedians. And, I mean, this was kind of the perfect scenario for him to try and just shock people into laughing. He's like a full-grown, like 40, 50-something-year-old man that's kind of balding, and he came out dressed in a home and away outfit, walking around trying to flirt with the other men and things in there, and it just completely mental. And you get some it's only definitely sort of an adult comedy show. But I mean, I found myself crying multiple times with laughter. So yeah, weirdly compelling to watch.
So you would have failed if you were on the show?
Oh, 100%. So it was almost that awkward thing too, where you can see that they wanted to laugh, because, I mean, even if someone tells you a bad joke, you kind of just laugh to be nice, and they couldn't even do that.
Yeah, it would have been rough.
Yeah, there's situations where you saw them kind of standing there trying their best not to laugh or trying not to walk away because they got kicked out as well if they didn't engage with others. So you couldn't kind of just walk in the corner and bury your head if you don't.
No, you couldn't just hide away.
No, if you didn't get involved, they came and they kicked you out. So yeah, it was funny, like really, really funny, but yeah, very wild, very quickly. I think like overall they were in there for 6 hours, which they strung across sort of. It must have been maybe 6 episodes. But just the intensity of it, by the end of that 6 hours, the room didn't even look like the room that they started in.
Just destroyed?
Destroyed it. Destroyed it for the sake of comedy, but I 100% appreciated it and just found myself crying with laughter most of the time. Weirded out a few times. But yeah, I definitely wasn't bored. So 100% recommend it to watch something strange and different, and it might give you an intro into maybe some comedians that you may have not otherwise heard of, that they all, or most of them at least, had their own comedy specials on Amazon Prime as well. So if you kind of watch the show, you can just click across into people like Ian Edmonds or whoever else that you might want to watch.
Yeah, it's a smart bit of cross-promotion.
It is. I don't know how Rebel Wilson ended up there, to be honest with you. I don't know if she maybe came home and got stuck in the lockdown and is now here doing whatever. But it was a bit weird to see her there. But everybody else just fitted in. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's shows like that, and like even like some of the festival road shows that I really enjoy, that aspect of learning about new comedians.
Yeah.
Although it obviously doesn't always hit on the festival ones. There are some people that I've seen multiple times on festivals. I'm like, I don't understand how this person is on festivals.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same in this one. There's 10 comedians, and definitely not all of them are funny. They had a couple of people in there that you think, like, what are you doing here? But even then, they were funny in that the stronger comedians almost tried to attack them with jokes and attack them to make them laugh, and they just became the kind of the weak link that they were just going after with just crazy humour just to see what they could do to them. But yeah, definitely worth a watch. Weird, but I guess something cool that came out of having to do new things at the moment.
Yeah, it sounds like that would be a good one to watch after the second movie I watched this week, The Vigil. It's a horror film that has just come out in Australia, but unlike sort of lots of movies in this genre, it doesn't rely on the occult or Catholic beliefs to guide the horror aspects. Instead, it's based in the Jewish community, and it follows a character called Yaakov, and he's given the task of being a shomer for the night, which I had never heard of before. Basically, what those people are is they're tasked with watching over a deceased person's body until the morticians can come and take the body away to do the burial service. And they're like there to protect against evil spirits.
I do not want that job.
No, especially in this movie, it gets pretty out of hand pretty quickly.
Oh, you couldn't do that by yourself. You would have to have like a Shoma team, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I definitely want someone there with me.
Oh, all the lights on.
This guy's just sitting in this old Hasidic man's house. The old man's wife is upstairs asleep. And this guy just goes through absolute hell. He's just tormented by this evil spirit the whole evening.
Hope he got paid all right.
He got $400.
Oh.
He started at 10:30 and went till 4 a.m.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, like as the movie progresses, you learn that the evil spirit that he's protecting the deceased person from, it's not actually after that person anymore. It was attached to that person and is now looking for the next person to attach itself to. And it looks for people that have really traumatic histories and pain in their lives. And obviously, as the movie goes, Yaakov has all of those things perfectly queued up, ready to go.
Oh, if he didn't before, it sounds like he does now.
Yeah. And it uses like all the tropes of like really dark, dimly lit areas, eerie noises, heaps of little jump scares, but it all builds tension the whole time. I think by basing it in Judaism, which I don't think I've ever seen a horror movie based in that religion before, it kind of injects that Jewish guilt and like trauma from the Holocaust into it all, and just makes for a really uneasy movie to watch. That's like, did you watch The Conjuring?
I did.
So yeah, it really reminded me of that, but just with a Jewish bent instead of Catholic.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good. I'm not so much about the horror films like that. Anything creepy where they're crawling around in the dark and jump scaring me with weird faces and stuff, I struggle through it with one eye closed. But, I mean, it's really cool to see the Jewish films and things coming back out, because after Unorthodox was one of the earlier episodes we did, I really enjoyed that series of Unorthodox. So it's good to see more Jewish content coming out.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of spurred it on. It's like similar to what happened a couple of years ago with like Viking culture, just all of a sudden became the big thing, and now it seems to be Jewish culture.
Good. I mean, you can only have so many crazy nuns and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's good to have something different.
Yeah, like it felt totally fresh and new, even though it was like typical tropey horror movie, but it just felt fresh, and then had a nice open ending that sort of left to interpretation. So there could be the Vigil cinematic universe coming along.
How many people are going to sign up for this job?
Apparently it's like a major thing in Jewish culture, so...
Way. That is not a job I will ever, ever, ever do.
Yeah, I think I'd want a little bit more than $400, please.
Think I'll just not do the job and keep my life free of scary spirits, thank you.
Yeah, just like get the morticians there a bit earlier. Why do we have to wait till 4 a.m?
Can't his wife do it? She's already there.
She apparently had like Alzheimer's and stuff, but yeah, you got to watch the movie to find out what's going on in that whole situation.
Look, let's be honest, he's not going anywhere. Like, he's already down and out. He's not going anywhere. You don't need me. Sounds like a good movie, though. Yeah, not about the job. Sounds like a good movie.
Yeah, I can see you definitely being freaked out by that one. The old watch through the fingers.
Yeah, you watch it through one hand with one eye covered, 50% less scary.
I love that that's your theory, and I'm not sure how it holds up, but...
Yeah, it works. Got me through all the Paranormal Activities, Insidious, everything. I'm telling you, it works.
Was it Paranormal Activity 1 or 2 that we saw in the movies and I looked over and you were just one eye in it the whole time?
It was the first one, but then I did it with the second one when we watched it at home.
That's awesome. What was the last thing you checked out this week?
I watched... It was a Netflix documentary. It's called Three Identical Strangers. I don't know what it must have been only recently released on Netflix. I think it's actually a film from 2018, but just recently released. It tells the story of a man who, when he was 19, went to college for the first time, a community college. So he was 19 in 1980, so born in around about 1960. He arrived at the college, and when he got there, people were coming up and being like, "Whoa, man, it's really nice to see you back here." And girls were running up and kissing him on the cheeks, and, "Man, we didn't think you'd be coming back." And he was kind of walking in thinking, "Wow, what a friendly college." And it just kept happening and happening through the day until eventually he got to his dorm room at the time, and a guy came banging on the door, said to him, "Are you adopted?" And he said, "Yep." "Are you born on July 12th? He said, "Yep." He's like, "You need to come with me." And they jump in this guy's car, and they basically end up at the house of this guy's identical twin that he'd never met, who formerly had gone to that college.
What? And
the two of them met for the first time at age 19. So that then becomes this massive news story that what a crazy coincidence that these two guys have met each other. They look like, we're talking identical, like look exactly the same, talk the same, the whole thing. So they're in the newspaper and all this story is happening, and then somewhere in the same area, a guy picks up the newspaper and looks at it and sees the photo of these two guys in the news story and is like, these two guys look exactly the same as I do. Like, I'm looking at two of me in the newspaper in this article, and he kind of gets in contact with them, and turns out that there's triplets that had been separated at birth that all end up meeting each other for the first time at age 19. So they're like identical strangers.
Jeez, as if the first finding out you had a twin wasn't mind-blowing enough.
Yeah, well, they said that the whole way through. It's like they thought they were in a dream, that they were going to wake up and like people wouldn't believe them. And when they met for the first time with their adopted families, the three of them, like it was like, when you meet a stranger, you kind of standoffish a little bit or whatever. The three of these guys just within minutes were all like hugging and wrestling on the floor, and it's like they'd known each other the whole time. And when they started to talk to them they got interviewed everywhere and became this kind of a big news story, I guess, in 1980. But when they got interviewed, they obviously like looked the same and all that same sort of stuff. But then they also had the same mannerisms. They all smoked the same cigarettes at the time. They all wrestled in high school at different high schools, like the same colours, like the same foods, just all this stuff that is just completely, you think you would choose it. It's just all the same for the three of them.
Yeah, you think all that is upbringing.
Yeah, you do. And it becomes this whole documentary about nature versus nurture, the idea of whether you're kind of destined to be the person you be from when you're born with your DNA, or whether your parents and you kind of choose exactly what you want to be and what you want to do. But then it gets a bit deeper, and they start noticing some sort of strange coincidences. And so the three twins, one of them was born in a lower income or adopted into a lower income family. One of them was adopted into a middle income family. One was adopted into a high income family. All three of them had adopted sisters of exactly the same age, of 2 years older than them. None of the adopted parents knew about the triplets. And then people were kind of coming in and studying them and things. I don't want to go too far into it because it has some really interesting, some pretty mind-blowing, crazy, dark twists to it that I don't really want to give away, because I recommend that you watch this one, because it's a documentary that you'll watch and it's like every 15, 20 minutes you go, whoa, that can't be real. And then something else happens, you go, no, that can't be real. And turns out it's real, and it happened to these people in America between the 60s and the 80s.
Yeah, it all sounds like some like crazy science experiment.
Yeah, well, I don't want to ruin it for you because I recommend you watch it. It's, like I said, on Netflix, so I guess most people will probably be able to watch it. But yeah, some really interesting sort of dark turns to it that, it becomes sort of about whether people should be separated like that, obviously, and how far people should be able to go and look into things with children, obviously not being able to decide whether we want to be part of these sorts of...
I'll have to check that one out and report back next time, because that sounds
definitely
pretty wild.
Very mind-blowing. It's just, I can't imagine. Can you imagine walking like around the corner and just running into yourself?
Yeah, like you'd be like, what? I have to be asleep, like I'm dreaming, this isn't real.
Yeah. And then not only running into yourself, running into two people that are yourself.
Yeah, running into yourself again. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, just going to the college and having people act like they know you would have just been like, what is going on here? Like,
it must have been so exciting at the start, being like, whoa, what a friendly place. Everyone here really likes me. I only just got here.
I'm making friends with everyone. Woo. And then they were actually just friends with your brother.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up like living together and being kind of like New York celebrities, and like it worked out pretty cool for them at times. But like I said, yeah, lots of twists. Yeah,
so then to close out on sort of a nice light-hearted note, I watched the King of Staten Island. You might have seen the poster or maybe the trailer for it. It's got Pete Davidson covered in tattoos.
I think I saw the trailer. Yeah. I don't mind Pete Davidson. Was it a good movie?
Yeah, awesome. Like, it's sort of a comedy drama that's co-written by Pete Davidson and Judd Apatow, which, knowing his repertoire, is always pretty much a highlight anytime he makes something.
Yeah.
Seems to capture my attention. And it's also got Marissa Tomei, Bill Burr, Belle Powell from The Morning Show, and Steve Buscemi in the movie.
Yep.
And it follows Scott, who's Pete Davidson's character. And he's kind of like, he's a bit of a stoner, a bit of a bum. He kind of needs to get his life together he's got ADHD, depression because he lost his father, who was a firefighter.
You know, Pete Davidson lost his dad like that. Have you seen that?
Yeah. So it's a semi-biographical take on his life.
Yeah, I was going to say, it really fits him.
Yeah, so it's about sort of, it weaves in his story where he lost his father in 9/11, whereas this Scott character just loses his father at a building fire.
Yeah.
And then Scott's mum starts dating a new man who just so happens to also be a firefighter. And as you can imagine, with someone that had lost their father to the profession, kind of doesn't take that too well, kind of goes even further off the rails, but eventually starts to build a relationship with Ray, the new stepdad, and slowly gets his life back on track. And the way they explore that is Ray sort of just gives him little jobs throughout the relationship. He gets him to sort of walk his kids to school, and it's at that time where he's sort of spending time with much younger kids that he sort of begins to mature in himself and build a relationship with Ray. And then he goes and volunteers at the firehouse, and then that's where he starts to sort of build a respect for Ray and what firefighters do, and doesn't see him as someone trying to just take over his dad's spot.
Yeah.
Really sort of sweet film, but it has bits of dark humour and lots of little comedy quirks in it that make it so it's touching rather than just being like kind of sad.
Yeah.
And in the US they released it on VOD, but here it hit cinemas on Thursday. And yeah, I think if you're into that sort of slice of life story, it's a really compelling movie to watch. That it's probably goes a little bit too long, but that's kind of a Judd Apatow thing. He generally tends to make movies that are maybe a bit too long, but it's a really sweet movie.
Can I only watch that in the cinema? Can I download that somewhere? I don't even know what cinemas are open right now.
At the moment, it's only available in cinemas here. I got a screener link, but it is available around. So
I'd really like to watch it. I find Pete Davidson really funny. I kind of like those. He was another guy that come up through Saturday Night Live, wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, I just find that, like Andy Samberg, it's kind of the same. I find him really funny. Yeah, I like his sense of humour.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can see like his brand of humour in it. Like obviously with the depression, the ADHD just kind of is a little bit wacky at times.
Yeah.
Wants to be a tattooist, and his tattoos are not good, to say the least. But like Ray lets him use his own back to practice on, and that's where they start to build a relationship, because they're just spending hours together while he's tattooing him with things that he was asked not to tattoo on him, but he does anyway.
I guess if he's a rubbish tattoo artist, better to put it on your back where you never have to look at it.
That's what he says. He goes, "It's my back. I'm not going to see it. I can just put a shirt on. Who cares?"
There you go.
But yeah, it's like just gives Scott that idea of he's willing to do this for me and help me. So, and as someone whose dad passed away pretty young, this movie hit pretty hard for me.
Okay.
And then to close out, what would be your top recommendation for the week?
Just for the twists, like I said, and the value of just the crazy story that's actually real, I'd have to say Netflix, 3 Identical Strangers.
Okay, yep, I'll definitely check that one out and report back next time we speak.
Sounds good.
And then for me, it's a tough one. Like, I really enjoyed King of Staten Island, but I think just because it's a little bit too long, I'm going to have to lean towards Danger Close, just because it's like punchy and it's an incredible story that people can watch and just learn about a crazy moment in Australian history.
Hopefully I can get to a cinema to watch King of Staten Island, because like I said, I've watched Danger Close, but yeah, it sounds like a really good film as well. But yeah, I think the Battle of Long Tan deserves the attention that it gets from that movie.
Yeah, and if you want to check it out, It was, when I watched it on Thursday, it was on Apple TV for 99 cents, so it's a bargain. Okay, so that's everything for today. Thank you for listening to the Commentary Booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. You can follow me on social media at JamieAppsMedia, and you can follow Buddy over on Instagram at a.b_CSEE. Check out some of his drone footage.
Thank you for having me. Happy birthday for this week.
Thank you. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine Jam Zine over on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the Jam publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support. Brian and June Hart, Courtney Paulson, Tracy Apps.